Billionaire CEO's ex-wife has 24 hours to live. He must choose between saving her or keeping his fortune. The phone call came at 3:47 a.m., shattering Marcus Kane's sleep and the illusion that money could protect him from losing the mother of his children. The shrill ring cut through the silence of his Manhattan penthouse like a knife through silk, and somehow, even before he answered, Marcus knew his world was about to collapse. "Mr. Kane?" The voice on the other end was shaking, professional but barely controlled. "This is Dr. Sarah Chun from Mount Sinai Hospital. I'm calling about Isabella Martinez." Marcus sat up in his California king bed, his heart already racing. Isabella, his ex-wife, the mother of his 8-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan. The woman he had loved more than life itself before ambition poisoned everything between them. "What's happened?" Marcus asked, his voice barely a whisper. "There's been an accident, Mr. Kane. A drunk driver ran a red light and hit Isabella's car head-on. She's in critical condition with massive internal trauma. You're still listed as her emergency contact, and the children are asking for their daddy. Have you ever had to choose between everything you've built and the person who gave you your greatest treasures? Have you ever faced losing not just your love, but your children's mother forever? Tonight, you'll witness a billionaire father face the most impossible choice imaginable. Save his ex-wife and lose his empire, or keep his fortune and let his 8-year-old twins watch their mother die. But here's the question that will destroy you. How do you explain to your children that daddy's money was more important than mommy's life? If you believe that some choices define who we really are, and that love should always come before money, hit that subscribe button right now because this story will change how you see everything. Marcus was dressed and in his car within minutes, his hands shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. The drive to Mount Sinai felt like an eternity, every red light an obstacle between him and his children who needed him. As Manhattan's skyline blurred past his window, memories flooded back with devastating clarity. 10 years earlier, Marcus Kane had been nobody special, just another ambitious Stanford Business School student with big dreams and empty pockets. He had been working on his laptop in the library's computer lab when Isabella Martinez sat down next to him, her dark hair falling like a curtain as she leaned over her own screen. "Are you coding a new social media platform?" she had asked, glancing at his screen with genuine curiosity. "Something like that," Marcus had replied, immediately struck by her intelligence and beauty. "I'm developing artificial intelligence algorithms that could revolutionize how businesses interact with customers." Isabella's eyes had lit up. "That's incredible. I'm working on predictive analytics for market behavior. Maybe our projects could complement each other." That conversation had lasted until the library closed at midnight. By the time they walked out together into the cool California air, Marcus knew he had found his partner in every sense of the word. "I'm Isabella, by the way," she had said, extending her hand with a smile that made his heart skip. "Marcus Kane," he had replied, taking her hand and feeling electricity shoot through his entire body. "And I think you just changed my life." He had been right. Isabella Martinez was brilliant, driven, and possessed a vision for technology that perfectly complemented Marcus's technical skills. They spent the next 2 years building Kane Industries from their shared dorm room, surviving on ramen noodles and the absolute certainty that they were going to change the world together. "We make a perfect team," Isabella had said one night as they worked until dawn on their first major presentation to potential investors. "Your innovation, my business strategy. We're unstoppable." Marcus had looked at her then, exhausted but radiant in the glow of her laptop screen, and realized he was completely in love. Their first big breakthrough had come 6 months before graduation. A major tech corporation had offered them $50 million for their AI platform, enough to set them up for life. But instead of selling, they had made the decision that would define their future. "We keep the company," Marcus had said during their celebration dinner at a cheap Italian restaurant near campus. "We build this ourselves, together." "Together," Isabella had agreed, raising her glass of cheap wine. Partners in business and in life. Her yes had been immediate and enthusiastic, accompanied by tears of joy and kisses that tasted like wine and possibility. Their wedding had been small but perfect, held in the Stanford Chapel with their closest friends and family. Isabella had worn her grandmother's dress, and Marcus had worn his only suit, but they had never felt richer. I promise to love you, support your dreams, and build a life with you that's even more beautiful than anything we could create separately, Isabella had vowed, her voice strong and clear. I promise to put our family first, always, Marcus had replied, meaning every word. To never let success change who we are or what we mean to each other. For 5 years, they had kept those promises. Kane Industries had grown from a dorm room startup to a billion-dollar corporation, but Marcus and Isabella had remained grounded in their love for each other and their shared vision. The twins had arrived on a snowy February morning when Marcus was 28 and Isabella was 26. Emma had been born first, screaming with impressive lung capacity, followed 2 minutes later by Ethan, who had emerged quietly observing the world with serious dark eyes. They're perfect, Marcus had whispered, holding his daughter while Isabella cradled their son. Absolutely perfect. Emma has your stubborn chin. Isabella had laughed through happy tears. And Ethan has my thinking face. They're going to be brilliant, Marcus had said with absolute certainty. With your brains and my determination, they'll be able to do anything. As long as they're happy and loved, that's all that matters, Isabella had replied, her voice soft with exhaustion and joy. Those early years with the twins had been magical despite the chaos. Marcus had worked from home as much as possible, determined to be present for every milestone. He had been there for their first smiles, first words, first steps. Isabella had scaled back her role at Kane Industries to focus on motherhood, but she had remained involved in major decisions and strategic planning. We have everything, Marcus had said one evening as they watched 3-year-old Emma and Ethan playing in their backyard while the sun set behind them. A successful company, beautiful children, and each other. What more could we possibly need? Nothing, Isabella had agreed, leaning against his shoulder. We have everything that matters. But somewhere along the way, everything had stopped being enough for Marcus. The turning point had come when Emma and Ethan were 5 years old. A massive merger opportunity had presented itself, the kind of deal that would make Kane Industries one of the most powerful tech companies in the world. The negotiations were complex, requiring months of 18-hour days and constant travel. I need you to step back from the children's daily care, Marcus had told Isabella one evening after missing Emma's dance recital for the 3rd week in a row. This merger could set up generational wealth for Emma and Ethan. They'll thank us when they're older. They need their father now, not a trust fund, Isabella had replied, her voice tight with frustration. You've missed more bedtime stories this month than you've read. When was the last time you helped with homework or just played with them in the backyard? I'm building their future, Marcus had insisted. Everything I do is for this family. No, Isabella had said quietly. Everything you do is for your ego. There's a difference. The arguments had escalated from there. Isabella had wanted Marcus to turn down the merger, to focus on the family and the company they already had. Marcus had seen her objections as small-minded, unable to understand the bigger picture of what they could achieve. You're losing yourself in this obsession with being the biggest and the best, Isabella had pleaded during one of their worst fights. The children barely know you anymore. I barely know you. You knew who I was when you married me, Marcus had shot back. I'm a builder, Isabella. I don't stop at good enough. I married a man who promised to put family first, Isabella had replied, tears streaming down her face. That man seems to have disappeared. The final break had come on Emma and Ethan's 6th birthday. Marcus had promised to be home for their party, but the merger negotiations had reached a critical point. He had made the choice that would haunt him forever. I can't leave now, he had told Isabella over the phone from his office. We're on the verge of closing the biggest deal in tech history. The children will understand when they're older. They're 6 years old, Marcus, Isabella had said, her voice breaking. They don't understand why Daddy's work is more important than their birthday. It's one birthday, Isabella. There will be others. No, Isabella had said quietly. There won't be. Not with you. That night, while Marcus had been celebrating his successful merger at a corporate dinner, Isabella had made her own decision. When he had arrived home at midnight, expecting to find his family asleep, he had instead found divorce papers on his desk and his wife packing suitcases in their bedroom. Isabella, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago, she had replied without looking at him. I'm protecting our children from growing up thinking that money matters more than love. You can't take my children from me, Marcus had said, panic rising in his chest. I'm not taking them from you. Isabella had replied sadly. You gave them up yourself. I'm just making it official. Now, 5 years later, Marcus pulled into the hospital parking garage, his hands still shaking from the memory and the terror of potentially losing Isabella forever. The Mount Sinai Emergency Department was buzzing with activity even at 4 in the morning, but Marcus saw only one thing that mattered. Emma and Ethan were sitting in the children's waiting area, still in their pajamas, looking impossibly small and scared. Emma's dark hair was messy from sleep, and Ethan clutched a stuffed elephant that had been his comfort object since he was 2 years old. Daddy! Emma cried when she saw him, launching herself into his arms with the desperation of a child who had been trying to be brave for too long. I'm here, sweetheart, Marcus whispered, gathering both children close. Daddy's here now. Is Mommy going to be okay? Ethan asked, his serious 8-year-old eyes searching Marcus's face for reassurance. Marcus's heart broke at the question. How could he explain to his children that their mother was fighting for her life? How could he tell them that the doctors weren't sure if she would survive the night? The doctors are working very hard to help Mommy, Marcus said carefully. She's hurt, but she's strong, and she's fighting. Can we see her? Emma asked hopefully. Not right now, baby girl. The doctors need to take care of her first. Dr. Sarah Chun appeared beside them, her face grave but kind. Mr. Kane, could I speak with you privately? Marcus looked at his children, not wanting to leave them even for a moment. A kind-faced nurse seemed to understand. I'll stay with Emma and Ethan, she offered. There are coloring books and games right here. Marcus followed Dr. Chun down a sterile hallway, his heart pounding with dread. How bad is it? He asked as soon as they were out of the children's earshot. It's very serious, Mr. Kane, Dr. Chun said gently. Isabella has massive internal bleeding, trauma to multiple organs, and she's lost a significant amount of blood. We've stabilized her for now, but her condition is critical. But she'll be okay, right? You can fix this. Dr. Chun paused, choosing her words carefully. There's an experimental treatment that could save her life. A combination of surgical intervention and regenerative therapy that we've been developing here at Mount Sinai. But there are complications. What kind of complications? The treatment costs $50 million, and it's not approved by the FDA yet. Insurance won't cover it, and it requires resources that operate in legal gray areas. Marcus stared at her. You're talking about black market medical procedures. I'm talking about the only thing that might save Isabella's life, Dr. Chun said quietly. But Mr. Kane, you need to understand. If we proceed with this treatment, and if the FBI investigates the source of the organs and equipment we'd need to procure, anyone involved could face serious legal consequences. How serious? Prison time. Complete financial ruin. The destruction of any business empire you might have built. Marcus felt the world tilting around him. How long do I have to decide? 24 hours, Dr. Chun said. After that, even the experimental treatment won't be enough. Marcus walked back to the waiting room in a daze, his mind reeling with the impossible choice he faced. Save Isabella and lose everything he had built, or keep his empire and let the mother of his children die. Daddy, Emma's voice brought him back to the present. You look scared. Marcus knelt down to his daughter's level, looking into eyes that were so much like Isabella's it took his breath away. Sometimes grown-ups get scared too, sweetheart, he said softly. But being scared doesn't mean we give up. It means we have to be extra brave. Are you going to be extra brave for Mommy? Ethan asked. Marcus pulled both children close, breathing in the scent of their hair and feeling the solid warmth of their small bodies against his chest. Yes, he whispered. Daddy's going to be extra brave for Mommy. But as he held his children in the sterile hospital waiting room, watching the clock on the wall tick away precious minutes, Marcus Kane faced a choice that would define not just his future, but the kind of man he truly was. 24 hours to choose between everything he had built and everything that truly mattered. The countdown had begun. 6 hours later, the sun was rising over Manhattan, painting the hospital windows in shades of gold and pink, but Marcus Kane barely noticed. He sat in the family conference room, surrounded by his entire board of directors who had arrived at his urgent request. Emma and Ethan were sleeping in the children's lounge under the watchful eye of Isabella's sister Maria, who had driven down from Boston the moment she heard about the accident. "Let me understand this correctly," said Richard Blackstone, Kane Industries' chief financial officer, his voice cold and calculating. "You're considering bankrupting the company to pay for experimental medical treatment for your ex-wife." "I'm considering saving the mother of my children," Marcus replied evenly, though his hands were clenched into fists under the conference table. "With respect, Marcus," interjected Patricia Wells, the company's lead counsel, "Isabella is your ex-wife, not your current wife. You have no legal obligation to provide for her medical care beyond basic child support requirements." "Legal obligation," Marcus repeated slowly. "Is that what we're talking about here? Legal obligations?" "We're talking about fiduciary responsibility," said James Morrison, the eldest board member and Marcus's former mentor. "You have an obligation to this company's shareholders, to our employees, to the thousands of people whose retirement accounts are invested in Kane Industries stock. You can't destroy all of that for one person." "One person," Marcus said, his voice dangerously quiet. "One person who happens to be the mother of my children. Your children who will inherit nothing if you bankrupt the company," Patricia pointed out. "Think about their future, Marcus. Think about college tuition, graduate school, the opportunities that wealth can provide them." Marcus stood up abruptly, walking to the window that overlooked the city he had conquered. From this height, Manhattan looked like a game board, with him as one of the most powerful players. Kane Industries stock was trading at an all-time high. His personal net worth had just crossed $2.8 billion. He was 36 years old and commanded an empire that influenced global technology markets. "You want to know what I'm thinking about?" Marcus said without turning around. "I'm thinking about Emma asking me why Mommy looks so sleepy. I'm thinking about Ethan clutching his stuffed elephant and trying not to cry because he wants to be brave for his sister. I'm thinking about 2 8-year-old children who might grow up without their mother because I was too concerned about stock prices to save her." "Marcus," James said gently, "you're emotional right now, which is understandable. But you can't make a decision this massive based on emotion. Isabella made her choice when she divorced you and took the children. You owe her nothing." Marcus turned around, his gray eyes blazing with something none of them had seen before. "I owe her everything," he said quietly. "She co-founded this company. She was my partner when Kane Industries was just a dream in a Stanford dorm room. She gave me the greatest gifts of my life in Emma and Ethan, and I threw it all away because I thought building an empire was more important than cherishing what I already had." "So this is about guilt," Richard observed. "You want to assuage your conscience by bankrupting the company." "No," Marcus said firmly. "This is about choosing correctly this time. This is about being the man I should have been 5 years ago." Patricia leaned forward. "Marcus, think practically for a moment. Even if you liquidate everything to pay for this treatment, there's no guarantee it will work. Isabella could die anyway, and then you'll have lost everything for nothing. And if I don't try?" Marcus challenged. "If I let her die because I'm afraid of losing money, how do I explain that to my children? How do I live with myself?" "You live with yourself by remembering that you're a rational businessman who understands that emotional decisions lead to disaster," James said firmly. "Isabella chose to leave you, Marcus. She chose to take the children and build a life without you. You don't owe her martyrdom." Marcus was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the city that had made him one of its kings. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. "Do you know what Emma said to me when I tucked her in last night? She said, 'Daddy, I wish Mommy still lived with us, but I understand why she can't.' An 8-year-old child understands something that I apparently didn't. That I chose my company over my family." He turned back to face the board. "Isabella didn't take the children from me. I gave them up. I chose 18-hour days over bedtime stories. I chose merger negotiations over dance recitals. I chose building wealth over building relationships. And now you want to compound that mistake by destroying everything you've built?" Patricia asked. "I want to save the mother of my children," Marcus said simply. "Everything else is just money." "Just money," Richard laughed bitterly. "Marcus, this company employs 12,000 people. Just money supports their families, pays their mortgages, funds their children's educations. You're not just risking your own fortune. You're risking theirs too." The weight of that responsibility settled on Marcus's shoulders like a physical burden. 12,000 employees. Hundreds of thousands of shareholders. Billions of dollars in market capitalization. All of it built over 15 years of relentless work and sacrifice. There has to be another way, he said desperately. Bank loans, investors, something that doesn't require liquidating everything. For $50 million in 24 hours for an illegal medical procedure? Patricia shook her head. No legitimate financial institution would touch this, Marcus. And even if they would, the FBI investigation would destroy the company anyway. The moment you're connected to black market organ procurement, Kane Industries becomes toxic. Stock price would crater, partnerships would dissolve, government contracts would be canceled. Marcus sank into his chair, the full scope of the choice before him finally crystallizing. Save Isabella and watch everything he had built crumble, taking thousands of innocent people with him. Or preserve the empire and let the mother of his children die. I need time to think, he said quietly. You have 18 hours, James reminded him. After that, even if you wanted to liquidate, there wouldn't be enough time to arrange the financing. If you've ever faced an impossible choice between love and responsibility, between what your heart wants and what logic demands, hit that like button now, because this story is about to get even more intense. After the board meeting ended, Marcus walked through the hospital corridors like a man in a trance. He found himself in the chapel, a small interfaith space with simple wooden pews and stained glass windows that caught the morning light. He hadn't prayed in years, not since he was a child, but now he found himself on his knees begging for guidance from a God he wasn't sure was listening. Please, he whispered into the empty space. Show me what to do. Show me how to save her without destroying everything else. But the only answer was silence and the distant sounds of the hospital going about its business of healing and heartbreak. He was still sitting in the chapel when Maria found him 20 minutes later. The children are asking for you, she said quietly, sliding into the pew beside him. Maria Rodriguez had been Isabella's best friend since college, and Marcus knew she blamed him for the divorce. He also knew she was right to blame him. How is she? Marcus asked without looking up. No change. Still critical, but stable. Maria was quiet for a moment. The children don't understand how serious this is. They think mommy just needs to rest, and she'll be better. Maybe that's better, Marcus said. Maybe they don't need to know that their father might have to choose between saving their mother and preserving their inheritance. Maria turned to look at him fully. Is that really the choice you're facing? Marcus explained the situation, watching Maria's face grow paler with each detail. $50 million, she said when he finished. And if you pay it, you lose everything. Everything financial, Marcus corrected. I'd still have Emma and Ethan. But they'd have their mother, Maria pointed out. Marcus, I've hated you for 5 years. I've blamed you for breaking Isabella's heart and tearing apart your family. But if you save her life, if you choose her over your money, maybe I've been wrong about what kind of man you really are. What if the treatment doesn't work? Marcus asked. What if I sacrifice everything and she dies anyway? Then you'll know you tried everything possible to save the mother of your children, Maria said simply. And Emma and Ethan will know that their father loved their mother enough to risk everything for her. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. She was the best part of me, Maria. Isabella made me want to be better than I was. After she left, I threw myself into work because it was easier than facing what I had lost. You lost it because you chose to lose it, Maria said, not unkindly. But Marcus, life is giving you a chance to choose differently this time. The question is, are you brave enough to take it? Before Marcus could answer, his phone buzzed with a text message from his assistant. The stock market had opened, and Kane Industries was up 3% on news of a major government contract. In the time he had been sitting in this chapel wrestling with his conscience, his company had earned another $40 million in market value. $40 million. Almost enough to pay for Isabella's treatment, if only he could access it without destroying the company that generated it. I have to go see the children, Marcus said, standing up from the pew. Marcus, Maria called as he reached the chapel door. Whatever you decide, decide quickly. Isabella doesn't have much time. Marcus found Emma and Ethan in the children's playroom, surrounded by coloring books and stuffed animals, but looking lost and scared despite the cheerful decorations. Daddy, Emma said, running to him the moment she saw him. When can we see Mommy? Soon, sweetheart, Marcus said, kneeling down to hug both children. The doctors are still helping her get better. Is she going to die? Ethan asked with the directness that only children possessed. The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. Why would you ask that, buddy? Because everyone keeps whispering and looking sad, Ethan said seriously. And Aunt Maria was crying when she thought we weren't looking. Marcus looked at his son, this serious little boy who had inherited Isabella's analytical mind and his own ability to read situations. How could he lie to children who were clearly intelligent enough to understand that something was terribly wrong? Mommy is very sick, Marcus said carefully. The doctors are working very hard to help her, but it's going to take time. Are you going to help the doctors? Emma asked hopefully. How would Daddy help the doctors? Ethan wanted to know. Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes. How could he explain to his 8-year-old children that helping their mother might mean giving up everything else in their lives? Sometimes helping someone we love means making difficult choices, Marcus said slowly. Choices that might change our lives in big ways. What kind of choices? Emma asked. Marcus looked at his daughter, this beautiful little girl who had Isabella's eyes and his own stubborn chin. The kind of choices that show what really matters to us. Mommy matters most, Ethan said immediately. Right, Daddy? Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus felt something break open in his chest as he looked at his children's trusting faces. Yes, he whispered. Mommy matters most. Then you'll help her, Emma said with the absolute faith that only children have in their parents. You always fix things, Daddy. You can fix Mommy too, right? Marcus gathered both children close, breathing in the scent of their hair and feeling the weight of their trust and love. Yes, he said quietly. Daddy's going to fix Mommy. He didn't know how yet, but looking into his children's eyes, Marcus Kane finally understood what Isabella had been trying to tell him 5 years ago. Some things were more important than money. Some choices defined who you really were. And he was going to choose correctly this time, no matter what it cost him. 14 hours remaining. This story has established the impossible choice Marcus faces, shown the depth of his love for his children, and built toward his decision to save Isabella no matter the cost. The second part will cover his decision to liquidate everything, the medical procedure, Isabella's recovery, and their journey to rebuild their family from love rather than money. Are you ready? Let's go, my family. Marcus Kane stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, staring out at the Manhattan skyline that had once represented everything he thought he wanted. The city sprawled below him like a kingdom he had conquered, but all he could think about were 2 8-year-old children sitting in a hospital waiting room, trusting their father to save their mother. 12 hours remaining. His phone had been ringing constantly for the past hour. Reporters wanting statements about the rumored Kane Industries crisis. Board members demanding emergency meetings. Stock analysts questioning the sudden volatility in share prices. But Marcus ignored them all, focused instead on the impossible mathematics of love versus money. $50 million. In 12 hours. For a procedure that might not even work. His assistant, Jennifer, knocked softly on the door. Mr. Kane? Your attorney is here, and the liquidation specialists are standing by. They need your final authorization to begin the asset transfer process. Marcus turned from the window, his face calm despite the storm raging inside him. Send them in. The next hour was a blur of legal documents, financial transfers, and the systematic destruction of everything Marcus had spent 15 years building. He watched his stock portfolio dissolve, his real estate holdings transfer to buyers who had been waiting years for the opportunity, his art collection disappear into auction houses that promised rapid sales. This is financial suicide, warned David Chun, his personal attorney. Marcus, once you sign these papers, there's no going back. Kane Industries will be stripped for parts. Your personal fortune will be gone. Everything. Everything except what matters, Marcus replied, signing another document that transferred ownership of his Hamptons estate. My children will still have their mother. If the procedure works, David reminded him grimly, and if the FBI doesn't arrest you for conspiracy in illegal organ procurement, then I'll face whatever consequences come, Marcus said simply. But I won't face my children knowing I chose money over their mother's life. As Marcus signed away his empire piece by piece, his mind drifted to memories he had tried to suppress for 5 years. 7 years earlier. Marcus slowed down. Isabella had laughed, trying to keep up with his excited pace as they walked through their first real office space. The building isn't going anywhere. But don't you see it? Marcus had said, gesturing expansively at the empty floors that would become Kane Industries headquarters. This is where we'll change the world, Isabella. This is where we'll build something that lasts forever. Isabella had smiled, her hand resting on her still flat stomach where Emma and Ethan were just beginning to grow. Some things already last forever, Marcus. Love, family, the connections between people. Those don't need office buildings. But this will give us the platform to make a real difference, Marcus had insisted. Imagine what we can accomplish with unlimited resources. I can imagine what we can accomplish with love and partnership, Isabella had replied softly. That's enough for me. Marcus had kissed her then, tasting the sweetness of shared dreams and infinite possibility. We'll have both, he had promised. Success and love, business and family. We'll prove that you don't have to choose. How wrong he had been. Present moment. 8 hours remaining. Dr. Sarah Chun found Marcus in Isabella's hospital room, where he sat holding his ex-wife's unconscious hand while monitoring the machines that were keeping her alive. Isabella looked fragile and pale against the white hospital sheets, her dark hair spread across the pillow like silk. Mr. Kane, we need to begin the procedure preparation immediately if we're going to meet the deadline, Dr. Chen said quietly. The surgical team is standing by, and the specialized equipment has been secured. Marcus nodded without taking his eyes off Isabella's face. The money has been transferred. All 50 million, as requested. I have to ask you one more time, Dr. Chen said gently. Are you certain about this? The legal risks are enormous, and there's no guarantee of success. There's a guarantee of failure if we don't try, Marcus replied. And I can't explain that to my children. Dr. Chen nodded, understanding the weight of his choice. We'll need to move Isabella to the specialized surgical suite now. The procedure will take approximately 8 hours, and there will be several critical moments where we might lose her, Marcus finished. Yes, you should know that this is experimental surgery combined with regenerative therapy that exists in very few places in the world. We're essentially rebuilding damaged organs while she's under anesthesia. The success rate is about 60%. 60%. Marcus felt his chest tighten at the odds, but 60% was infinitely better than the 0% chance Isabella had without the treatment. What do I tell Emma and Ethan? Marcus asked. Tell them that their father loves their mother enough to risk everything to save her. Dr. Chen said simply. That's a lesson worth more than any inheritance. As the medical team prepared to move Isabella to surgery, Marcus leaned down to whisper in her ear. I'm choosing correctly this time, Isabella. I'm choosing you. I'm choosing our family. I should have made this choice 5 years ago, but I'm making it now. Please come back to us. Please come back to our children. They need you. I need you. He pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, then watched as the surgical team wheeled her away toward a procedure that would either save her life or cost them everything. Marcus found Emma and Ethan in the family waiting area, building a puzzle with Maria's help. They looked up hopefully when they saw him approach. Is Mommy better now? Emma asked immediately. The doctors are going to do a very special operation to help Mommy, Marcus explained, sitting down beside his children. It's going to take a long time, but it might make her all better, like when I had my tonsils out. Ethan asked. A little like that, but more complicated, Marcus said. The doctors have to work very hard, and we have to be very patient. Are you scared, Daddy? Emma asked, studying his face with her mother's perceptive eyes. Marcus considered lying, then decided his children deserved honesty. Yes, sweetheart. I'm very scared. But sometimes we have to be scared and brave at the same time. Like when I was scared to start second grade, but I did it anyway? Ethan offered. Exactly like that, Marcus said, pulling both children close. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you're scared. What's the right thing, Daddy? Emma asked. Marcus looked at his daughter, this beautiful little girl who would grow up either with or without her mother based on the choice he had just made. The right thing is fighting for the people we love, Marcus said softly. No matter what it costs us. Maria had been listening to the conversation, and Marcus saw tears in her eyes. She had never forgiven him for the divorce, but something in his face seemed to be changing her opinion of who he really was. Uncle Marcus, she said quietly, using the title she hadn't spoken in 5 years. What did it cost you? To pay for Isabella's treatment. Marcus was quiet for a moment, considering how much to tell his children about the sacrifice he had just made. "It cost me my company," he said simply. "It cost me most of the money I've made. But it might save Mommy's life, and that's worth more than anything else in the world." Emma and Ethan looked at each other, then back at their father with expressions far too serious for 8-year-olds. "Are we poor now, Daddy?" Ethan asked. "No, buddy," Marcus said, meaning it completely. "We're rich in all the ways that matter. We have each other, and hopefully we'll have Mommy back too." "Good," Emma said firmly. "Money is just paper. Mommy is real." Out of the mouths of babes. Marcus felt tears threatening again at his daughter's simple wisdom. If you believe that love is the only wealth that truly matters, and that some choices define who we really are, make sure to share this story because it's about to show you what real courage looks like. 6 hours into the surgery. Marcus hadn't left the surgical waiting area, despite the comfortable private room the hospital had offered. Emma and Ethan had finally fallen asleep on the small couch, covered with blankets Maria had brought from home. The hospital had grown quiet in the early morning hours, but Marcus remained wide awake, staring at the doors that separated him from Isabella's fate. His phone buzzed with constant notifications. News alerts about Kane Industries stock plummeting. Emergency board meetings being called. Employees panicking about their job security. The financial press calling his decision everything from romantic heroism to corporate irresponsibility. Marcus turned off his phone. None of it mattered now. Dr. Chun emerged from the surgical suite at 6:30 a.m., her scrub stained and her face exhausted but hopeful. "How is she?" Marcus asked, rising immediately. "The surgery was successful," Dr. Chun said, and Marcus felt his knees nearly buckle with relief. "We were able to repair the organ damage and complete the regenerative therapy. Isabella is stable and her vital signs are strong." "She's going to be okay?" Marcus whispered. "She's going to live," Dr. Chin confirmed. "The next 24 hours will be critical for full recovery, but Marcus, we did it. We saved her." Marcus sank into his chair, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. "Can I see her?" "She's still unconscious from the anesthesia, but yes. She should wake up within the next few hours." Marcus looked at his sleeping children, then back at Dr. Chun. "They've been so brave. They deserve to see their mother." "Let's let her wake up first," Dr. Chun suggested gently. "But Marcus, there's something else you should know. While you were focused on Isabella's surgery, there have been some developments with Kane Industries." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of developments?" "The FBI investigation has begun. They're looking into the financial transactions related to Isabella's treatment. And your board of directors has called an emergency meeting to discuss removing you as CEO." "I expected that," Marcus said quietly. "I knew there would be consequences. Are you prepared for what this means?" Prison time is a real possibility. Complete financial ruin is almost certain. And Kane Industries will likely be dissolved to satisfy creditors and legal settlements. Marcus looked at his sleeping children, then toward the recovery room where Isabella was beginning her journey back to life. "Dr. Chun, 5 years ago I chose my company over my family and lost everything that mattered. Today I chose my family over my company and gained everything that matters. I'd make the same choice again in a heartbeat, even knowing what it will cost you. Especially knowing what it will cost me," Marcus said firmly. "My children will grow up knowing that their father loved their mother enough to sacrifice everything for her. That's a legacy worth more than any business empire." Dr. Chin smiled for the first time since the crisis began. "You can see Isabella now. Room 314. Marcus gently woke Emma and Ethan, who stirred sleepily in their makeshift bed. "Is Mommy better?" Emma asked immediately, her hair sticking up at odd angles. "Mommy's better," Marcus confirmed, his voice thick with emotion. "The doctors fixed her, and she's going to be okay." "Can we see her now?" Ethan asked hopefully. "Yes, we can see her now." The walk to Isabella's recovery room felt like the longest journey of Marcus's life. When he pushed open the door, he saw Isabella lying peacefully in bed, color slowly returning to her cheeks, her breathing steady and strong. "Mommy," Emma whispered, approaching the bed carefully. Isabella's eyes fluttered open at the sound of her daughter's voice. When she saw Emma and Ethan standing beside her bed with Marcus behind them, she smiled through her tears. "My babies," she whispered weakly. "Are you okay? Were you scared?" "We were scared," Ethan admitted, but Daddy told us that being brave means doing the right thing even when you're scared. Isabella's eyes found Marcus over their children's heads. What did Daddy do that was brave? Emma and Ethan looked at their father expectantly, clearly proud of what he had done, but not fully understanding the magnitude of his sacrifice. Daddy saved you, Mommy, Emma said simply. He gave up his company so the doctors could make you better. Isabella's eyes widened in shock. Marcus, what does she mean? Marcus moved closer to the bed, his hand finding Isabella's. I mean that I finally learned what really matters. I mean that I chose correctly this time. How much did it cost? Isabella asked quietly, though her eyes suggested she already knew the answer would be devastating. Everything, Marcus said simply, and it was worth every penny. Isabella stared at him in disbelief. You gave up Kane Industries? Your entire fortune? Marcus, that company was your life's work. No, Marcus said softly, his eyes moving to Emma and Ethan, who were holding their mother's hands and chattering about how worried they had been. This is my life's work. You and our children. The company was just money. This is love. Isabella's tears came freely then. Marcus, what are we going to do? How will we survive? How will we pay for the children's education, their future? The same way we survived when we were students with nothing but dreams, Marcus replied. Together, as a family, we built Kane Industries once from nothing. We can build something new. But the legal consequences, Isabella protested weakly. If the FBI investigates the treatment funding, then I'll face whatever comes, Marcus said firmly. I won't spend another day of my life regretting that I chose money over family. I'd rather be poor with you than rich without you. Emma looked up from where she was showing Isabella a drawing she had made during the long night. Are you and Daddy going to live together again? The question hung in the air like a prayer. Marcus and Isabella looked at each other, 5 years of hurt and love and regret passing between them in a single glance. Would you like that? Isabella asked her children softly. Yes, both Emma and Ethan exclaimed immediately. We want to be a real family again, Ethan added seriously. Like before, but better. Better how? Marcus asked, genuinely curious about his son's perspective. Before, you were always working and Mommy was always sad, Ethan explained with 8-year-old wisdom. Now maybe you can play with us more, and Mommy can be happy. Isabella looked at Marcus, searching his face for sincerity or deception. Is that what you want, Marcus? To try again? To rebuild not just our finances, but our family? It's all I've wanted for 5 years, Marcus admitted. I was just too proud and too scared to admit it. What about your empire? Your success? Your reputation? My reputation will be that I chose love over money when it mattered most, Marcus said quietly. My success will be measured in bedtime stories and family dinners and being present for the moments that matter. And my empire will be built on love instead of profit margins. Isabella squeezed his hand weakly. It won't be easy, Marcus. Starting over with nothing. Learning to trust each other again. Rebuilding not just our financial life, but our emotional life. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy, Marcus replied. But Isabella, we're not starting with nothing. We're starting with love. We're starting with our children. We're starting with the knowledge of what we almost lost and what we're determined never to lose again. And if the FBI investigation leads to prison time for you? Isabella asked quietly. If there are legal consequences for the medical financing? Marcus looked at his children, who were listening to every word with the intensity that only children can bring to adult conversations they don't fully understand. Then we'll face that together too, Marcus said firmly. As a family, whatever comes next, we face it together. Isabella nodded slowly, tears streaming down her face. Then yes, I want to try again. I want to rebuild our family. Emma and Ethan cheered with the pure joy that only children can express when their deepest wishes come true. When can Mommy come home? Emma asked excitedly. And where is home going to be? Ethan added practically. Isabella and Marcus laughed together for the first time in 5 years. Their children's innocent questions highlighted just how much their lives were about to change. Mommy needs to stay in the hospital for a few more days, Isabella said. And home is going to be? She looked at Marcus questioningly. Home is going to be wherever we're all together, Marcus said. We'll figure out the details, but the important thing is that we'll be a family again. 3 weeks later, Marcus Kane stood in the small two-bedroom apartment in Queens that had become their new home, watching Isabella teach Emma how to braid friendship bracelets while Ethan read quietly in the corner. The apartment was a far cry from their former Manhattan penthouse, but it was filled with something their old home had never possessed: peace, joy, the simple contentment of a family that had chosen love over everything else. The legal and financial aftermath of Marcus's decision had been swift and devastating. Kane Industries had been dissolved within a week, its assets sold to satisfy creditors and legal obligations. The FBI investigation was ongoing, though Marcus's attorneys were cautiously optimistic that the medical necessity of Isabella's treatment would prevent serious criminal charges. More importantly, Marcus had started a small technology consulting firm, using his expertise and reputation to help startups navigate the challenges he had once faced. The work was fulfilling in ways that managing a corporate empire had never been, partly because he could work flexible hours that allowed him to be present for his family. "Daddy, can you help me with this math problem?" Ethan called from his spot at the small kitchen table they used for homework. "Of course, buddy," Marcus said, settling beside his son and feeling grateful for the opportunity to help with something so wonderfully ordinary. "Mr. Kane," came a voice from the apartment doorway. Maria stood there holding grocery bags, a weekly ritual she had established to help the family adjust to their new circumstances. "How are you adjusting to domestic life?" "It's the best job I've ever had," Marcus replied honestly, continuing to work through Ethan's division problems. Maria had been the most surprising source of support during their transition. The woman who had hated Marcus for 5 years had become one of his strongest advocates after witnessing his sacrifice for Isabella. "You know," Maria said as she unpacked groceries, "I owe you an apology. I spent 5 years thinking you were a selfish man who chose money over family. I was wrong." "You weren't wrong," Marcus corrected gently. "That's exactly who I was 5 years ago. But people can change, Maria. Circumstances can change us." "Love changed you," Isabella said from the living room, looking up from the friendship bracelets. "And almost losing everything that mattered." "I did lose everything that mattered," Marcus said quietly. 5 years ago, I lost you. I lost my children's daily presence. I lost the chance to be the husband and father I should have been. Everything that's happened since then has just been me trying to find my way back to what really matters." Emma bounded over to show Marcus the bracelet she had been making. "This is for you, Daddy. It's friendship colors because we're friends again." Marcus accepted the small woven bracelet with the reverence he had once reserved for billion-dollar contracts. "It's beautiful, sweetheart." "Thank you. Are you sad about not being a billionaire anymore?" Ethan asked with the directness that 8-year-olds were famous for. Marcus considered the question seriously. 3 months ago, he had been worth $2.8 billion. Today, his net worth was approximately $15,000 and a used Honda Civic. By any financial measure, he was a complete failure. "No, buddy," Marcus said honestly. "I'm not sad at all. Being a billionaire means having a lot of money. Being your daddy means having everything that matters. But don't you miss having fancy things?" Emma asked curiously. "I miss some things," Marcus admitted. "I miss being able to buy you anything you wanted without thinking about it. I miss not worrying about rent money. But Emma, do you know what I don't miss?" "What?" "I don't miss working so much that I couldn't read you bedtime stories. I don't miss being so busy that I missed your school plays. I don't miss choosing conference calls over family dinners." "So you like being poor better than being rich?" Ethan asked, trying to understand adult logic. Isabella laughed from across the room. "We're not poor, sweetheart. We have food, clothes, a home, and each other. We just don't have extra money for expensive things. Are we ever going to be rich again?" Emma wanted to know. Marcus and Isabella exchanged a look full of shared understanding. "We are rich," Isabella said softly. "We're rich in love, rich in family, rich in the knowledge that we chose each other over everything else. Money is just paper, but love is real." "Besides," Marcus added with a grin, "Daddy's pretty good at building companies. Maybe someday we'll build another one. Together this time." "A family company," Emma said excitedly, "where everyone works together. And where family always comes first," Ethan added seriously. "Always," Marcus and Isabella said in unison. That evening, after the children were asleep in their shared bedroom, Marcus and Isabella sat on their small balcony overlooking Queens, holding hands and watching the lights of Manhattan twinkle in the distance. "Do you ever regret it?" Isabella asked quietly. "Giving up everything for me?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, considering the question seriously. "I regret that it took almost losing you to understand what really mattered," he said finally. "I regret the 5 years we lost. I regret that our children had to watch their family fall apart because I was too blind to see what I had. But Isabella, I will never regret choosing to save your life. Never, even if you go to prison." The FBI investigation was still pending, though Marcus's lawyers were increasingly confident that the medical necessity would prevent serious charges. Even then, Marcus said firmly, "Emma and Ethan will grow up knowing that their father loved their mother enough to risk everything for her. That's a lesson worth more than any inheritance I could have left them." Isabella leaned against his shoulder, feeling safe and loved in a way she hadn't experienced since the early days of their marriage. "I love you," she whispered. "I never stopped loving you, even when I hated what you had become. I love the man you used to be, and I love the man you've become." "I love you too," Marcus replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "I love you, I love our children, and I love the life we're building together. It's smaller than what we had before, but it's so much bigger in all the ways that matter." "What do you think our future looks like?" Isabella asked. Marcus looked out at the city where he had once been a king, now just another working father trying to provide for his family. But instead of loss, he felt unlimited possibility. "I think it looks like family dinners every night," he said. "School plays and soccer games and dance recitals that I never miss. I think it looks like building something new together, something that makes money but never at the expense of love. I think it looks like growing old together and watching Emma and Ethan become amazing adults who understand that success is measured in relationships, not bank accounts." "That sounds perfect," Isabella said softly. "It sounds like everything I should have wanted from the beginning," Marcus agreed. 6 months later, Marcus K. Martinez stood at the podium of a small business conference in Brooklyn, addressing an audience of entrepreneurs and startup founders. The name change had been Isabella's idea, a symbolic joining that represented their commitment to building their new life as true partners. "The most important lesson I can share with you," Marcus said, looking out at the eager faces of people just beginning their own journeys toward success, "is that wealth without love is just expensive loneliness. I built a billion-dollar empire and nearly lost everything that mattered while doing it." In the audience, Isabella sat with Emma and Ethan, who had insisted on coming to hear Daddy speak at his work event. The consulting firm Marcus had started was thriving, specializing in helping other entrepreneurs avoid the mistakes he had made. "Business success means nothing if you sacrifice your family to achieve it," Marcus continued. "I'm here today not as a billionaire, but as a man who learned the difference between being rich and being wealthy. I'm rich in love, rich in family, rich in the knowledge that when faced with an impossible choice, I chose correctly." After his presentation, Marcus joined his family in the audience. "You did great, Daddy," Emma said, hugging his arm. "Are you going to help other daddies learn not to work too much?" Ethan asked seriously. "That's exactly what I'm going to do," Marcus said. "I'm going to help other parents remember that their children need their time more than their money." "Good," Ethan said with satisfaction, "because kids need their parents to play with them and read stories and help with homework. And to choose them over everything else," Emma added wisely. Isabella smiled at her children's simple understanding of what really mattered in life. "Speaking of choosing family," Isabella said with a mysterious smile, "I have some news to share." Marcus looked at her curiously. "What kind of news?" Isabella took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. "The kind of news that means our family is going to get a little bigger." Marcus's eyes widened in shock and joy. "Are you pregnant?" Isabella confirmed, laughing at his expression. "About 8 weeks." Emma and Ethan looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned on their faces. "We're going to have a baby?" Emma asked excitedly. "A little brother or sister?" Ethan added hopefully. "Yes," Isabella said, tears of joy streaming down her face. "In about 7 months." Marcus pulled his family close, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the gift he had been given. A second chance at love, at family, at building a life that mattered. And now, a new life to love and protect and raised with the wisdom that came from understanding what truly mattered. "I love you," he whispered to Isabella. "I love all of you so much." "We love you too, Daddy," Emma and Ethan chorused. As Marcus held his family close, surrounded by the noise and energy of young entrepreneurs chasing their dreams, he felt richer than he had ever felt as a billionaire. He had everything that mattered: love, family, the chance to raise his children with the knowledge that people mattered more than profit, that relationships were the only wealth that truly lasted. If this story has touched your heart and shown you what real wealth looks like, please share it with someone who needs to remember that love is the only empire worth building. Comment below and tell us about a time when you had to choose between what seemed important and what really mattered. 1 year later. Final resolution. Marcus K. Martinez stood in the small backyard of their house in Queens, pushing his 9-year-old daughter Emma on the swing set he had built with his own hands. Isabella sat nearby in a lawn chair, cradling their 3-month-old son Daniel, while Ethan practiced soccer kicks against the fence. The house was modest, but it was theirs. Purchased with the profits from Marcus's thriving consulting business and Isabella's new venture, a nonprofit organization that helped families navigate medical crises. Together, they had built something more valuable than Kane Industries had ever been. They had built a life. "Higher, Daddy," Emma laughed, her dark hair flying behind her as she soared through the air. "Any higher and you'll fly to the moon," Marcus said, giving her another push. "Would you come rescue me if I got stuck on the moon?" Emma asked with 9-year-old logic. "I'd find a way," Marcus promised. Daddy always finds a way to bring his family home. The FBI investigation had concluded 6 months earlier with no criminal charges. Marcus's sacrifice to save Isabella's life had been deemed a medical necessity, and while there had been fines and legal complications, the family had emerged intact and stronger than ever. "Marcus," Isabella called from her chair, "Daniel's hungry, and I think someone wants his daddy." Marcus lifted Emma off the swing and walked over to take his son from Isabella's arms. Daniel looked up at him with serious dark eyes that reminded Marcus of Ethan at that age, and Marcus felt the familiar, overwhelming love that parenthood brought. "How are you feeling?" Marcus asked Isabella, noticing the tired lines around her eyes. "Grateful," Isabella said simply. "Every single day, I wake up grateful to be alive, grateful to be here with you and our children, grateful that you chose love over money when it mattered most." "I should have chosen love from the beginning," Marcus said quietly, settling beside her with Daniel in his arms. "Maybe," Isabella agreed. "But Marcus, if you had, would we appreciate what we have now as much as we do? Would we understand how precious this is if we hadn't almost lost it?" Marcus considered her words as he watched Emma and Ethan play together in the yard they shared. His children were happy, healthy, and secure in the knowledge that their parents loved them and each other. They lived in a modest house instead of a mansion, but it was filled with laughter and love in ways their old penthouse had never been. "Sometimes I think about the man I used to be," Marcus said, "obsessed with deals and acquisitions and stock prices. I barely recognize him." "He wasn't a bad man," Isabella said gently. "He was just lost. He thought success meant accumulating wealth instead of accumulating love. And now you understand that the richest man in the world is the one whose children run to him with joy, whose wife trusts him completely, and whose family chooses to spend time together because they want to, not because they have to." Marcus looked around their small backyard, listening to his children's laughter and feeling his baby son's warm weight in his arms. By every financial measure, he had lost everything. Kane Industries was gone, his billions were gone, his empire had crumbled. But sitting here with his family, Marcus felt like the richest man alive. "Do you think Emma and Ethan understand what really happened?" Marcus asked. "Why we went from being wealthy to being comfortable?" "They understand that Daddy chose Mommy," Isabella said with a smile. "They understand that when faced with the most important choice of your life, you chose correctly. That's all they need to understand." Ethan ran over to them, soccer ball under his arm and grass stains on his knees. "Dad, can we go get ice cream?" he asked hopefully. Marcus automatically reached for his wallet, then remembered their budget. Ice cream for a family of 5 was a luxury that required planning now, not an impulse purchase. "How about we make ice cream sundaes at home?" Isabella suggested. We have vanilla ice cream in the freezer and chocolate sauce in the pantry. Even better, Emma said, abandoning her swing to join the family planning session. We can make it exactly how we want. And it's more fun when we all make them together, Ethan added. Marcus marveled at his children's contentment with simple pleasures. They had adapted to their new lifestyle with the resilience that only children possessed, finding joy in experiences rather than possessions. Sounds perfect, Marcus said, standing up with Daniel still in his arms. Family ice cream sundae party it is. As they walked toward the house together, Emma slipped her hand into Marcus's free hand. Daddy, are you happy? She asked seriously. Marcus stopped walking and knelt down to his daughter's level, still holding baby Daniel. Emma, I am happier than I have ever been in my entire life, he said with complete honesty. Are you happy? Yes, Emma said immediately. We have everything we need. What do we need? Marcus asked, curious about his daughter's perspective. Each other, Emma said simply. We need each other, and we have each other, so we have everything. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus felt tears sting his eyes at his daughter's wisdom. That evening, after the children were asleep and Daniel was settled in his crib, Marcus and Isabella sat together on their small couch, sharing a cup of tea and the comfortable silence of a couple who had found their way back to each other. Any regrets? Isabella asked, the question that had become a nightly ritual between them. Only that it took almost losing you to find my way back to what mattered, Marcus replied, pulling her close. But Isabella, I would make the same choice 1,000 times over. I would give up 1,000 empires to save your life. I love you, Isabella whispered against his shoulder. I love the man you were, the man you became, and the man you're becoming every day. I love you too, Marcus replied. And I love the life we've built together. It's smaller than what we had before, but it's so much bigger in every way that matters. What do you think our children will remember about this time in their lives? Isabella asked. Marcus considered the question thoughtfully. I think they'll remember that their parents chose love over money. I think they'll remember family dinners and bedtime stories and weekend adventures that didn't cost anything, but meant everything. I think they'll remember feeling safe and loved and valued for who they are, not what they might achieve. And when they're older, when they understand more about what you sacrificed, I hope they'll understand that some choices define who you really are, Marcus said quietly. I hope they'll understand that the greatest wealth anyone can possess is the love of their family. And I hope that when they face their own impossible choices, they'll remember that love is always the right answer. Isabella smiled, feeling grateful beyond measure for the journey that had brought them to this moment. Do you think we'll ever be wealthy again? Financially, I mean. Maybe, Marcus said. We're building something good with the consulting firm and your nonprofit. But Isabella, even if we never have money again, we'll always be rich. We're rich in love, rich in family, rich in the knowledge that we chose correctly when it mattered most. The richest family in Queens, Isabella said with a laugh. The richest family in the world, Marcus corrected, meaning every word. As they prepared for bed in their small house filled with love and laughter, Marcus reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them here. 2 years ago, he had been a billionaire CEO with an empire and an empty heart. Today, he was a man with a modest income, a growing family, and a wealth that couldn't be measured in dollars. He had learned the most important lesson of his life. That true wealth wasn't measured in bank accounts or stock portfolios or corporate valuations. True wealth was measured in love given and received, in time spent with people who mattered, in the knowledge that when faced with an impossible choice, you chose with your heart instead of your calculator. Marcus Kane had lost his billions and found his soul. He had sacrificed his empire and gained his family. He had given up everything the world said mattered and discovered everything that actually did. And as he fell asleep beside the woman he loved, listening to his children breathe peacefully in their rooms, Marcus Kane knew with absolute certainty that he was the richest man alive. The greatest empire anyone could build wasn't made of money or power or possessions. It was made of love, family, and the courage to choose what truly mattered when the whole world was watching. That was a legacy worth more than all the billions in the world. Remember, true wealth isn't what you own. It's who loves you and who you love in return. If this story has inspired you to think differently about success and what really matters in life, Please subscribe to Lux Love Chronicles with Mr. Wentworth for more powerful stories about love, sacrifice, and the choices that define us. Until next time, choose love. Always choose love.